So before you create any content, think about who's gonna be receiving it. What do you want them to get from it? How do you want them to feel? My name is Jamila Reddy. I'm a transformational coach and lifestyle designer and creator, and this is my creator story.
Hey!
I grew up in Charlotte, North Carolina. Lived with my mom and dad. My mom was a nurse, my dad was an artist. Something that I experienced was being the one black person or like the one person of color, but that was a big part of my childhood experience, was feeling like, as we say in the South, the fly in the buttermilk. I had an early mastery of language that helped me feel really empowered to communicate my feelings and my needs. Something that my dad used to say to me all the time was, use your words. There's something to me very pleasurable, actually, very delightful and empowering about being able to be specific with language. I didn't know the word queer when I was a kid. And in the absence of having the word queer, I denied myself my own understanding and access to this part of my identity that is so me, because I didn't have the word for it. And having the word changed my understanding of myself. My dad was a very eccentric person. He was very expressive, being an artist and an activist and growing up in the Jim Crow South and feeling like he was constantly pushing up against people trying to sort of shrink his potential, and very proud of being a person of African descent. But shortly after my parents separated, my sister's mental health started to decline. She was actually really depressed and struggled with bipolar disorder and didn't have the language for it, so there was no way to hold that reality for her. So my sister passed away in August of 2018 from an overdose, and then my father died 6 months later from cancer. I have such a beautiful life, and I wish that my sister could see it. I'm like, I want you to see the sunset over at Venice Beach, and like, I want you to see this beautiful house. And I feel like there's a lot of, in celebration and in moments of like deep gratitude is when I think of her a lot, and just like, dang, wish you could have seen it. So I definitely have had a very intimate journey with death. It gave me a sense of urgency about creating my ideal life now. As a way of honoring my family, I feel like I made a commitment to live really fully. How do I, in every single day, infuse my lived experience with joy, with pleasure, with ease, with wellness, with delight, with magic, every day? Living my best life is so much more than a catchphrase. It's real. So I always knew that I didn't want to have a traditional office job. I didn't want to be sitting at a desk. People would say like, hey, I want to know what you think about this. And because I am super observant and because I love to connect the dots between like, oh, maybe you have this fear because of this. My friend encouraging me saying like, yeah, you should really like monetize this offering. It's really powerful and I think people would be willing to pay for it. I was like, got my wheels turning. I decided to put myself out there as a coach, and I made an Instagram post that said, if you want to work with me as a coach, here are my rates and you can book me here. 2 days later, someone had reached out to me and booked me for she was my very first client. And I worked with her, I think, for a month. And then it was kind of like, whoa, looking at this thing, it felt so validating, and it felt like this is real. When I was worried about, is this gonna work? Can I make it? I just looked at that payment confirmation and thought, yeah, I can actually, I've already done it. So I had been working a nonprofit job. I loved it, it was really exciting. I knew I was holding myself back, and I knew that I was playing small. And day after day, I'm talking to clients and students saying, leap and the net will appear. Like, when you stop playing small, your life will expand. And I thought, dang, I'm playing small. And the very next day, I got offered $1,000 to teach a masterclass. So that was the offering that I got the day after I quit my job. And I was like, word. All of the roles that I had before I started working for myself really prepared me, I think, to be able to do my job well now.
I started sharing more and it just picked up and my following grew, and it set me up to be able to quit my job and sustain myself from this work full time. One of the wisest decisions that I could have made as an entrepreneur and a business owner was to invest in myself, and was to invest in my business, was to invest in taking classes and learning about, like, okay, well, how do I market? I worked with someone who reframed the idea of what having a personal brand was. And she was like, your brand is how people feel after they engage with whatever your product or service is. And I was like, oh. She was like, yeah, it's just a matter of, like, when people come to your website, when they go to your social media pages, what do you want them to feel? And that's your brand.
A tip I have for creators is to get to know yourself, right? Like, before you go on a date with someone, you'd want to know what you're bringing to the table, and it's the same for creating. You got to know what you're bringing, what makes you different, what sets you apart, and what you can uniquely offer. A metaphor that I love to use is tending to your garden. Got to be willing to look at the inside of your life and to tend to the garden of your mind. You gotta be the gardener. You gotta get in the soil. You gotta, like, dig your hands in the dirt, see what weeds are growing, see what needs to be uprooted, see what seeds you can water, what you wanna plant. Yeah, makes a big difference. You know, I think people have this idea that influencing is about, you know, trying to sell things all the time. But I see influencing and creating in general as being a person that people want to follow, as being an example of possibility. People are creating content without thinking about the consumer, without thinking about the audience. So before you create any content, think about who's gonna be receiving it. What do you want them to get from it? How do you want them to feel? The business part, yeah, I have the space, the mental space now to focus on other things other than keeping track of invoices and whether or not I've been paid. I really do feel like Lumanu is the future. Like, it makes me feel hopeful. I mean, it gives me literally goosebumps to think about. And to have resources that are intended for me and for people who are providing examples of possibility for other people feels like the future. Lumanu Early Pay enables me to be able to manage my finances and also manage my life in a way that's empowered. Lumanu Early Pay is a game changer of all game changers. I can just breathe. Like, I don't have to figure out when that money is coming or chase that money down or be involved in these uncomfortable exchanges with people to try to, you know, like, are you gonna pay me on time? And, you know, I got early pay the other day for a gig that I did, and it was so amazing because I was able to move money into my savings and book a plane ticket. And I was like, wow, it feels really empowering to be able to just have the money on hand. I can just be like, it's done, and now I can just live my life. But having a place where where people are saying, yeah, we know that your role is important. We value the work that you do as a creator. We value the work that you do as an influencer, and we want you to be able to be compensated appropriately, to be able to flourish, to have financial abundance. I Lumanu because I believe in the importance and the power of what I'm doing. It is my responsibility to be able to do it well and to be able to do it sustainably. I'm Jamila Reddy, and that was my creator story.